The situation really is crazy because the need for abortion by women in Ireland is exactly the same as the need for by women in the rest of the UK. Here, I think in England, it's now become accepted that people shouldn't, I mean, they should plan their families. The whole notion of planning your family is very normal. It's seen as being sensible for women not to have children until they feel ready to have children. No one expects girls to wait until they're married before they have sex. It's easy to get contraception, fair enough, but we know that contraception fails. Sometimes we fail to use it terribly well, and so abortion needs to be there as a backup. Well, that kind of modern life is exactly the same in Belfast, in Dublin, as it is in London, and so the need for abortion is still there just as much. The real problem that a lot of women in Ireland have is that the proximity of clinics in England means that politicians can kind of play a game with the issue. They can pretend that they don't want to discuss it, they can sweep the whole problem under the carpet, but they know that there's a let out. They're not going to have dangerous backstreet abortions carried out in the way that people will die of septicemia and so on, in the way that people do in some other countries where abortion's illegal, because they know that at the end of the day women will scrape the money together to travel. They know that clinics exist like BPAS clinics that will treat them, so they can kind of just not deal with it. And I think that's really not good enough. When you're having a medical procedure, you want it close to where you live, and you want to be able to discuss that with the people that you know and you love. And the idea that you're having to go to another country just really acts against all that.
I grew up in Belfast and I lived here until I was 20. When I was at university, I had been at a party and everybody had a lot to drink, blah blah blah, and I was with some friends of mine, and I had had so much to drink that I passed out and realised late on in the night that I had been raped by two so-called friends of mine, and realised about 3 weeks after that my period was late. Took a pregnancy test and realised it was positive. I panicked a bit after that. I knew that I didn't want the baby. I knew this wasn't for me. I mean, I am a teacher, I'm with kids all day, but the kids go home and then their life's my own. I knew I didn't want to be a mother. So I had a bit of a look online, saw what my options were really. It basically just looked as if I lived in Northern Ireland, that I had the baby and kept it, or had the baby and put it up for adoption. That these are my only two options. So I got in touch with someone in London from the BPAS clinic. She was fantastic. She said to me, look, let's have some counselling over the phone over the next few weeks. Make sure you know what it is you want to do. She says, we're going to give you all options here. And we eventually arranged that I was going to have a termination and I was going to go to London for the day to do it. The procedure itself was £795, which, I mean, I was a student, I wasn't working, I don't have that kind of money. I was able to borrow some under different pretenses from people, and whenever I'd scraped the money together, I immediately said to the lady, look, I've got it, I'm ready to go now.
Jenny travelled to London alone and had a termination at the British Pregnancy Advisory Service.
While they were fantastic, it was the single most painful and horrible experience of my life. It was absolutely terrible. I had to get up the next morning at 6 and go to the airport and then come home and pretend that nothing had happened. Pretend that essentially I'd just gone away to see a concert for the night, which is what I told my family. I just remember thinking, I almost feel like a criminal myself. I have no doubt in my mind that what I did was correct and the right decision for me, but I feel like I've done something wrong.
The fact that it's not legal really sets up a notion that it must be wrong, and also it sets up a notion that it must be dangerous somehow, or that it's something to be ashamed of, and that there are risks attached to it. The stigma that is created by making abortion illegal is a real heavy burden for women to bear.
I knew what I was doing, if I were still in Belfast at the time, wouldn't have been legal. And I did say, look, it just doesn't seem right that I'm not entitled to any aftercare or anything here. Like, just say I come back and something goes really wrong. I mean, what do I do? Do I go to my GP? Do I tell them I've had a termination? Why, I don't know. What do I do? If anything goes wrong, I'm on my own. I'd had quite a lot of soreness and tenderness a few days after. But the lady had said to me that I would bleed, and I didn't. And that panicked me. I read all sorts online. It just did too much reading online. And they've got a special aftercare line for people from Northern Ireland. I remember phoning the aftercare line and said, look, I haven't bled, and I don't know what this means. Did it not work? Is there a complication? I don't know. I can't go to my doctor. I said, you have an extra aftercare line for people that can't go to their GP. What is this? We're supposed to be all the same. We've all got the same passport. But as far as healthcare goes, you might as well be the other side of the world. The procedure itself was £795. It's £795, which has essentially given me my freedom. But then something that was taken away from me. I didn't ask to be raped. I didn't ask to be pregnant. But yet I had to pay out an extortionate amount of money to make this stop. And I know that if it had happened and I lived in London, it would have been over. It would have been taken care of by the NHS and it would have been fine. But because it's an accident of birth, I don't know, because this is where I was brought up, this is where I lived when it happened, I was out of pocket by quite a lot of money. So I took 6-7 months or whatever to pay back the money that I'd owed to people because I was working part-time, student loans, whatever. So I constantly had that reminder. Every £50, £100, whatever I could afford to get people back at the time was a constant reminder of, it's different if you borrow money because you want to buy a PlayStation or you want to buy a car. But I had this reminder, this is the money that I'm paying back for an abortion that I didn't ask to have and I didn't want to have. And because some people in politics think that a collection of cells, the life, is more important than mine that I'm having to have. And so that was just, it was a constant reminder for a while, and it was something I just couldn't get out of my head.